What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven, and today we're going to be taking a look at the developer notes for patch 71.12, the June 2022 update for Storybook Brawl. Let's jump in now to the patch notes. There's not actually too much getting changed. Just a few heroes, 6 new treasures actually. Did not realize it was that many. But some of these changes that are coming to the patch are going to have really big impacts, despite seeming pretty small at first. So the first thing that we're going to look at is just cosmetic. Gumblegore is getting new artwork, and we can see that here. It is also potentially getting a new name. If somebody can come up with something cool, they say to shout them out on Twitter, or if you don't have a Twitter, feel free to leave a comment below. Some comments on previous patch note videos of mine have made it into the actual game. So there is the potential for that. If I know that a lot of you guys are pretty clever, have some cool ideas, so if you have a cool name for what Gumblegore could become, I was looking into like the witch's name from Hansel and Gretel. Doesn't seem like that really evokes as much as Hansel and Gretel actually do, but is interesting. Hansel and Gretel, pretty big story, not really represented in Storybook Brawl. Maybe there's some other famous witches and things that could be brought into the game. I think that's really it. Let me know what you think about it too. I think that it's cool. It's a lot more complicated of art. It's a little bit jarring when you first see it, I think, because it's very zoomed in on her face. But overall cool, some nice vibrant colors, so it definitely stands out. And you'll notice Gumblegore when you see it in your games, and you'll be like, oh, what's this? So they also put out, the devs, a video themselves discussing some of, or all of the changes for the patch. So you can check that out as well and follow along with that. But I'm going to go over all of the changes here myself, and first up to bat is Snow Angel. Now, this patch is a little bit different, at least in terms of this patch review, because a lot of times I try to do these blind, give you guys some of my initial thoughts, and then it's fun if I'm right or if I'm wrong, and I have fun with it either way. But this time I have a little bit more experience with some of the things going on in this patch, because I was able to play it in the beta, which I'm always able to do, but Storybook Brawl 99 gave me an additional incentive to jump in there and test these things out. And in the 3 Storybook Brawl 99 videos that I uploaded, I believe one had multiple games, maybe. I can't quite remember, but 2 of those videos were just straight up Snow Angel games. In Storybook Brawl 99, where the competition is even higher. All of that is to say, this version of Snow Angel is very, very good, and you are definitely going to want to pick it when you see it. It's probably still going to be worse than some things like Zelhua and Wonderwaddle that have remained on top for a while, but now Snow Angel has everything. It's got a hero power early game that is much stronger because you only need to buy 2 characters, which means you might already have access to that on turn 2. Turn 1, buy a good unit. Turn 2, roll, buy another good unit. Or buy another good unit, then roll. Then you're playing 3 units, you're probably not losing. Starting from your second combat, you're just going to be a unit up, and then you will be able to have a tier 4 unit when everybody is level 3, and it just continues to be really good throughout the game. You'll grab a tier 6 minion pretty early on. And I think a lot of people are already saying that this is too powerful. I'm fine with having Snow Angel get a little bit of a chance to shine. I think that that is cool. Some things are going to ebb and flow. I don't know how you would balance Snow Angel to split the difference. It seems tough because this ability is so specific. The one thing that I will say about it, so I guess I should read it too. Buy 2 good characters to get a level 2 good character. I'm just assuming that everybody that watches these videos also watched the Storybook Brawl 99 video, but then you increase the ability by 1. So buy 3 good characters to get a level 3 good character. So on and so forth, all the way up to level 6. I believe once you buy your 6th character and get a level 6 good character, it doesn't increase by 1. It's just buy 6, get a 6. It might increase to buy 7, get a 6. That could be a potential way to balance it. Once I get into that point of the game, I generally stop caring about the hero power, but there's definitely some cool things that you can do with this, particularly like Crown of Atlas is a cool early treasure. Make all of your animals good. Then if you can buy and sell chickens, that's pretty fabulous. Probably don't want to do anything crazy with it with Holy Grail. Holy Grail is probably still best spent just picking up evil trees rather than caring about your Snow Angel at all. And then, of course, in both of my Storybook Brawl 99 videos, I was abusing it with royals, but that was also because Court Wizard was a royal, which unfortunately did not make it to the live game. So that was a little bit too strong for the Snow Angel. So we're not going to be seeing that in this patch. I do think that going royals can be a decent, reasonable strategy on Snow Angel, though maybe you just want to keep going. And then the other thing, like any additional ways to generate gold are basically also helping you cheat out units. Like even something like a spinning gold could be pretty good. In one of my videos, I make great use of Fool's Gold, and then I'm also able to find a Sky Castle. And well, if you didn't watch that video, go back and watch it. My Radiant Prism video, that one is pretty sweet, and we'll talk more about Radiant Prism later on in this patch notes. But definitely one worth watching. But Snow Angel, I think, is also just something worth watching. We'll see how good it turns out to be without the ability to play into Court Wizard shenanigans. I think that it is still going to be quite good, as it is caring about all of your good characters. And we'll see. I don't think it's hard to really call for a nerf when you still have heroes like 45 health Zelhua and Wonder Waddle. So yeah, I think that Snow Angel is going to be fine, but definitely worth playing and trying out. And then we've got I'll say that Sphinx is one of my favorite heroes because I think I was one of the players to, as soon as the patch with the Sphinx dropped, I said, that's busted, that's going to be good, that's the new best hero. And time proved me right. I think that a lot of other people slept on the Sphinx at first, so I do just have some fondness to the Sphinx, even though we're going to be seeing it in a completely new iteration now. So the Sphinx now says when you cast a spell, it's free for the rest of the game, and also it's bumped up to have 45 health. And this is a pretty unique effect, which is cool. Basically, the games that you are going to win with the Sphinx are going to be games where you get a little bit lucky. If you have that early shrink spell or roll the die to grab early units and help you with your econ, that is how you're actually going to generate wins with the Sphinx. There is a little bit of awkwardness that when you are casting your free spells, like next turn you see a roll the die, you cast it again because it's free. That means you're not spending the time to make something else free. So that can be a little bit awkward. Previously, I thought that trying to ball on Sphinx is kind of a trap because you only get to use it a few times, and it just overall wouldn't be good. I think that is obviously now much better, but I will maybe throw a clip on the screen. I did try that once in Storybook Brawl 99, and unfortunately, maybe I just got into it a little bit slow. Maybe there were too many possible spells in the pool in Storybook Brawl 99, but it didn't work out. basically the upfront cost for still casting all of those spells once still wound up being a little bit too high. And then you also have a bunch of spells like Wormroot and Flourish and maybe Queen's Grace or something like that, though you can usually have like a Cinderella or something maybe. The point is, all of these spells that target specific things, you'd also have to spend the gold to purchase the specific things. So it wound up really not being as strong as Hat, because also you are like, so if you want to cast a Wormroot on an Ogre Princess, you gotta spend 5 to do that, and all that does is pump up your mages, pumps up your Ogre Princess as well, and then makes your next Wormroot free, which is only good if your Ogre Princess is strong enough from the 2 Wormroots that you're even playing it. So it's kind of tricky, but that's cool. It's nice if Sphinx has some interesting sub-games going on with it. And then the other thing that is going to be really strong, and that's why I mentioned like the non-targeted spells in the early game, the real way to win with the Sphinx is going to be find one of those econ spells early on in the game, basically that isn't Forbidden Fruit. Find your I just said them, Shrink spell and roll the die, and then use those to get you through the mid-game so that you have additional gold to roll for something like Turkish Delight, and then try to just cast 2 Turkish Delights. And you might not find 2, you might find 1 Turkish Delight and then 1 the End, or 1 Wish Upon a Star, 1 Turkish Delight. So can be a little bit awkward, but obviously has really huge high roll potential, and that can still be a lot of fun. We'll see how that plays out. I think that it is still potentially a little bit weak. It's definitely not going to be as strong as it once was. I did also play a game with the Sphinx and the library card, which we'll take a look at that in a moment. Also, unfortunately didn't work out just for whatever reason, but I think with the Sphinx, you'll know how good you're doing by the time you're done with level 2. Which isn't to say like you should concede or anything if it doesn't work out, but if you hit a roll the die or a shrink spell or multiple of those, then you'll be feeling a lot more confident than if you don't. So really still a cool hero. I am excited to try out this new version of the Sphinx. And then, of course, the other thing that you can do with her that is totally unique is get huge discounts on some of the really large endgame spells. So Pigomorph, Croc, Evil Twin, Knighthood, and potentially more. There is another tier 12, or tier 6, but 12 mana spell that they've been toying around with adding into the game. I've seen it in 2 different beta branches now, so that might be something that we see eventually in the future that Sphinx can get a discount on. One other thing that I asked the devs, I've not tried it myself, but they said they believe it should work, it's how it's coded. If you dream into the Sphinx, it should remember everything that you've cast previously this game. So the Sphinx is literally the worst character to dream into, other than if you are the Mask and can potentially make use of the ability like twice and then dream out again. But if you were level 6 and found it was all a dream, there's just no point in dreaming into the Sphinx. Whereas now, if you dream into it, you should be able to cast some free spells, and at the very least, the next dream that you find should be free. So cool to look at there. And then we're going to move on to Trophy Hunter. I think they weren't counting this one as a rework. All that it says now is that your Last Breath characters have +2 attack. So just means that your characters are going to have a little bit more likelihood of slaying, and Trophy Hunter needed some help after the removal of Grimsoul. This can actually be really cool on Trophy Hunter. Now Black Cat in the early game just has +2 attack. The cat that you summon will not, and that can get a little bit tricky, but it means that you can probably win your first combat by taking Black Cat and hit your opponent for some damage. So that's pretty cool. And overall, I didn't find it to be enough, but I only played one game on Trophy Hunter, and the only thing that I found was a bunch of puff puffs when I was playing Storybook Brawl 99. So, yeah, I think that there is definitely still potentially some room for Trophy Hunter to grow, but this can definitely help him out in the early game, and then he's supposed to be the best late game character just from this ability. So maybe your Last Breath characters having +2 attack is enough to get you to that mid and late game. I think it's enough to get you to the mid game. Once you're in the mid game, it falls off a little bit. +2 attack on a mummy or a monster book isn't super impressive. But then, of course, if you can ever get to that late game. So I think that one thing that could be interesting is giving the Good Boy +2 attack, though Good Boy has been hurt so many times from so many other nerfs that it's still a little bit tricky to move into. You'll need to find some other ways to pump up your Good Boys first, but it can be a nice little bonus. And let me make sure that we don't lose our camera. I know it froze on us the other day. All right, it should be good now. All right. And then we've got one other hero change, and that is a change to beauty. It used to say your evil characters are good, and now it says all of your characters are good. So that's going to mean your dwarves. It's going to mean time flies. That's probably one of the bigger ones. And then also like all of your dragons and stuff. Though that one's a little bit more awkward, but everything is good, which means that all of your alignment-based bonuses are going to be able to affect any of your characters. And just as a reminder, when you're playing beauty, that means you can like beauties influence a unit, any unit. And well, okay. Yes, any unit. Sorry, I had to think about that. But yeah, you can just beauties influence a good boy and give it +4 health. And then you can also witch's brew a good boy. All of those things work and work totally fine. I really did not play beauty at all on the last patch. I think I'll give her a try now. She seems a little bit more exciting. But overall, it's not like there's that many effects for good and evil things, and there's nothing really that takes you over the top and really synergizes, other than, I would say, maybe like Good Boy plus Gumblegore. That is the main synergy, and that's of course not going to change. Yeah, that's really it. I'm thinking like, oh, Lordy can pump your Good Boy, but it's only going to give it +2/+2 if you have one Lordy. So that, and oh no, it won't even be that Lordy pumps your Good Boy. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Good Boy will pump Lordy. So don't even worry about what I just said until we get to the Radiant Prism part of things. That's where I was going in my head. But yeah, I still don't think that beauty is going to be something that is super powerful. I'll try to mess around with it some and see what we can put together, but ultimately it is just going to be... So that's what I was getting at. The only thing really that I can think of is Good Boy pumping up Gumblegore, and then Good Boy pumping up Burning Tree. And I suppose Good Boy also pumps up in Echowood, so you could have a board that is just Good Boys and Echowoods, and the Good Boys will pump the Echowoods, which will pump the other Echowoods. Other than that, there's not too much going on. So a little bit unexciting still, beauty in my opinion, but we'll see. And I'll definitely be trying it out just to see if there's anything else that I can come up with. I honestly haven't racked my brain, haven't thought about beauty too much. I've ignored it every time I've seen it on like the beta and stuff like that. So we'll see how that one goes, but maybe not super exciting just yet. One thing that is pretty cool is we're going to see 2 new Tier 2 treasures join the game, the first of which is Great Library Card. Your shop sells an extra spell, and I do have a video, like I said, where I use this on the new Sphinx, which I think it can be really cool with, makes it feel a little bit more like the old Sphinx. But yeah, this is cool, and I'm also going to go ahead and showcase this now, Potion Master's Cookbook. When you cast a spell directly on a character, give it +2/+2 permanently. So basically what they did with both of these treasures is they took Potion Master, who still totally exists in the game, and they broke up his hero power into 2 different treasures that when combined make you a Potion Master. And I think that both of these... Well, I think that the Great Library Card is good. Being able to just have double the chances to roll for XP, I think that that just makes this card great. It says it right on the card, there's your hint. Potion Master's Cookbook, I think, is a little bit ultimately unexciting. However, it is good. It's very good. It's just not bringing too much to the game. I haven't really thought about its implications in terms of just, is this something that you want to take? Now, if you're Merlin, I think it's good to take. If you are Potion Master, I think it's good to take. And I'll talk about one more character that I think it will be really good on in a moment. But the question remains, is this ability, which wasn't historically strong enough to make Potion Master playable, is this just a fine treasure to just take and play in your tempo-based strategies where you're maybe just casting a Witch's Brew turns into Wormroot, Wormroot basically turns into like a Merlin's Test that you always win, +5/+5. Is that good enough? My hunch is no. So I think that this is mostly going to be used to soup up strategies where you already want to be casting spells. I don't think you should take this as your incentive to cast more spells, but I could be wrong on that. We'll find out. Great Library Card, though, on the other hand, I think you just want to take it. I think you want to take it, and that then becomes your new strategy. You can use it to find XP twice as quick. You can use it to do anything that Potion Master could already do. That includes Mask Ball, that includes Mix-a-Whizzle into True Love's Kiss, and that also just includes getting additional value because you find a free roll more often. So I think that this is going to be very good. It's probably a buff to Wonder Waddle. Potion Master's Cookbook, also potentially a buff to Wonder Waddle, and both of these in conjunction, I think, add a really, really interesting element to Peter Pants. Because typically, I can't tell you the last time I've completed a tier 2 treasure on Peter Pants, other than late game, complete the treasure off Cindy, and then just immediately hit skip without even looking at the options. Now you might want to look at the options. Either of these two things on Peter Pants would actually be a respectable replacement to Fork. Now, you don't want to have Fork and then replace it, of course, but if you don't have Fork, might be a little bit hard to come by. You got to triple the blind mice. This could be good, and the reason for that is there's other okay tier 2 treasures that you might be able to pick up. You might find a Runestones, you might find a Noble Steed, or you might find one of these two. And all of those in conjunction is going to mean that, yeah, maybe it's worth going for some tier 2 treasures and taking a look. And I believe the next one, oh yeah, we do have one more tier 2 treasure, but that is not going to be a good one for Peter Pants. But both of these definitely could be, and yeah, that's definitely something that I want to try out. I think Potion Master's Cookbook, you think about that with compared to Forking Rod, and it's pretty similar. I mean, Forking Rod is still going to be nuts because that's going to double pump on all of your mages, but it still turns Witch's Brew from +2/+2 compared to Forking Rod into +3/+3. So better Forking Rod. Just kidding, Forking Rod's still insane, but still definitely something to think about. And then Great Library card doesn't seem like something that you'd really need on Peter Pants, but it's just going to make your turns that much more powerful when your roll equity, every time that you press roll, you could potentially find 2 castable spells, and that really is just going to compound itself and allow for some really busted hat ball pop off. So Great Library card I think is really cool. And Potion Master's Cookbook, really good when you're ahead. I don't think it's going to be good enough when you're just behind, but I'd love to be proven wrong. It'll be very cool if it could be the case. And then we're going to see a brand new effect out of a tier 2 treasure. This is the first time with this patch, 2 treasures really, that have treasures that affect your level. And the first here is Skip's Puzzle Rune. When you replace this, +2 XP and +2 health. Again, kind of a Wonder Waddle buff. Wonder Waddle is going to be the easiest hero to take advantage of this, because Wonder Waddle is the easiest hero to generate treasures on. And awkwardly, I guess the worst hero for this would be King Midas, who just will never be able to activate this. So a nerf for Midas and a buff for Wonder Waddle, sure, seems fair. Now, one thing that you do have to consider is when you are gaining XP on Wonder Waddle, that is going to reduce the efficacy of your hero power, because you're no longer going to be able to find tier 2 and tier 3 animals as easy. Might not matter. +2 XP is a bunch, and this is a great way to pivot off of Wonder Waddle. And there's some other heroes that this can be good on. In one of my games, I utilized this with a hero that isn't making its way into the patch. Forget the name of that guy, but that was one of my Storybook Brawl 99 videos as well. And Skip's Puzzle Rune was really, really fabulous for us that game. Really strong, really sweet. It basically gives you a whole sub-game to play, and they described it as like a questing treasure, and I think that's a really cool way to look at it. It definitely changes what you care about. It can be a little bit feels bad because you are... If you're not getting the triples, then it's just going to do nothing, but them's the breaks. I think that you can, with this, use level 4 to even more aggressively just hunt for the triples, and then once you complete it, you'll be level 5 turning level 6, and you should be able to just skip level 4 altogether. And yeah, I think it's cool. I like when there's sub-games to play. I really like almost all of the questing units. I think that it's just a fun element to add to Storybook Brawl, to have a game that plays out differently and says, okay, well, now I'm going to care about this. Now I'm going to try to get non-lethal damage onto my Nutcracker, or I'm going to, well, Lance and Herc are kind of easier to activate, but still, they make for some really interesting sub-games, like when you Forking Rod a Queen's Grace on a Lancelot. Always feels great. So there is some really cool similar stuff that you can do with Skip's Puzzle Rune, and I'm looking forward to using this one on the live patch. Another new treasure that kind of impacts your level is the Enchanted Clocktower, and unfortunately, I have not played with this one. The one time that I've seen it, I think one time I was Wonder Waddle, so again, didn't want to take it. Maybe a slight nerf to Wonder Waddle, though probably not, because like, maybe I should have just taken this. But the other time that I had it, I had Skip's Puzzle Rune. So one thing to know with Skip's Puzzle Rune is you are going to be you're going to want to be mindful of taking it, or once you have it, taking stuff like Treasure Map or Watchtower or Runestones, or even the one where if you lose the Brawl Secret Stash, I always forget the name of that treasure. But basically, any treasures that destroy themselves or are one-time uses, you're not really going to want to use those with the Puzzle Stone, because then you are going to have a tough time getting 3 treasures. You need to have Skip's Puzzle Rune plus 2 more treasures, and then you need to find a 4th treasure so that way you can replace the puzzle rune. So it's a little bit tricky to actually activate and won't work well with Enchanted Clocktower, which destroys itself after use. Doesn't say it on the card, but it does destroy itself after use. And other than that, Enchanted Clocktower is really cool. Now, like I said, I haven't gotten to play around with it yet, but it can make for some really splashy high rolls, which is why I love Storybook Brawl. I love when there are just some crazy big moments. I'm sure we will see a bunch of this on the channel. I'll be forcing it pretty hard until I just get a game where, like, what you want to do with this, and this was said in the developers video as well, you want to, well, one, you can use it on Peter Pans, as you can see up here, and then Peter Pans can grab some tier 6 units. The main thing that you want to do with this is potentially grab a Hercules, and then, I mean, you want to be grabbing any tier 6 unit, but basically you pick up one and then you use the rest of your gold to roll and to lock onto a shop that will be good for the next turn, and hopefully pick up multiple tier 6 units with the lock of all of that. So that can be really sweet. And there's a bunch of tier 6 units that if you get them early enough, they can be super powerful. Good Boy is good because you can maybe start pumping it with Coin of Sharon, or if you are Sharon, and as well as just spells that you can cast along the way when you don't really have anything else worthy of spending your gold on. An early Good Boy can go a long way. Hercules, like I said, is going to be fantastic. Even something like Jormungand, I think, provides a lot of build around and is just a large unit. Doom Breath, also going to be very good. You can then look for a River Wish Mermaid and use that to start just demolishing comps, because an early Doom Breath, kind of the same thing as an early Good Boy. Some that aren't going to be as powerful, I mean, Gumblegore will still be good, Green Knight will still be great. Both of those bring a lot of stats. I think that Pumpkin isn't particularly impressive because you won't really have the evil units to go along with it, so that one isn't super exciting. But Lordy, I think, can also be pretty exciting. And then where this gets really crazy is if you are Gwen and you are able to grab an Enchanted Clocktower. I'm sure we are going to be seeing a lot of this, hoping to bring back Gwen's days soon as well, but Enchanted Clocktower plus Gwen is absolutely insane. You just grab anything, you knighthood it, and then you win the lobby because you've got an upgraded level 6 on level 3. So that one is potentially a little bit crazy, and I've seen some players complaining about the high roll capacity about the Enchanted Clocktower, specifically on Gwen. It can be a little bit crazy. And I also actually, I just played a few games last night. This patch dropped pretty late last night, or last night when you're seeing me record this. But yeah, I already had a player in my game that clearly had watchtowered. They had multiple trees. They had an Ashwood Elm and a Burning Tree, and even just one of those 2 units I think is probably good enough to pick up on the Clocktower turn, especially Ashwood, because you can just start to scale it immediately. The most awkward card on the Clocktower is definitely going to be Echowood, because you won't really have those payoff cards that work with it just yet, though it'll open up some new interesting decisions, like maybe you have to take a Vulture or a Queen of Hearts to start making the Echowood work for you early on and just actually be a reasonable unit. And then we'll see this in a moment, but Oni Tyrant is also going to be moved to tier 6 and get a little bit more stats again. So that could be something that is now really strong again to pick up, and then just pick up some friendly spirits and see where you go from there. We are going to have 2 more new treasures to look at, and the first is Krampus Sleigh. This is another one that I have not really looked at. There were a few times that I could have taken it in some of my Snow Angel videos, but there were just more powerful things. Ultimately, I really do like what Krampus Sleigh represents. I think that it is a good placeholder for the treasure. There's like one treasure on almost every other tier that just interacts with treasures to give you more treasures. So you have Runestones and Noble Steed, you've got Treasure Map. Tier 4 had nothing. So Krampus' Sleigh, you can't really make something better than treasure map, because that would just be, I mean, maybe you could. Maybe you could say next treasure has +3, and then you're just like guaranteed to get a tier 7 treasure. Or just at that point, probably just say your next treasure is a tier 7 treasure. That could be interesting. No, maybe it should say +3, because just Wonder Waddle things. So yeah, +3 could be a cool look for a tier 4 treasure as well, but this is kind of a different way to take on that. Instead of just 3 levels to your treasure, I'll read it because this is kind of a weird one. When you win a brawl, destroy this to gain 5 gold and pick one of your opponent's treasures. So you get an additional copy of the treasure. I think one of the most interesting implications of Krampus' Sleigh is, first off, I don't believe that it works with Mimic Chest. Because it says destroy this, I believe that you will, I don't know, maybe it will work. We'll see. That's interesting. Will you get 10 gold and 2 of their treasures? Maybe. That could be cool. Okay. And then the other implication, even if you don't have Mimic Chest, is that you could steal a treasure from your opponent that you already have a copy of. So the craziest example of this is going to be your opponent, you already have a 9th Book of Merlin, and then you steal another one from your opponent. That could be really, really insane. From there, you pick up a Mimic Chest, and I guess that's the Exodia build. 9th Mimic, giving all of your mages +4 spells upon death. Pick up some copycats. That'll be insane. So that's really cool. Now, the one thing I did ask the devs about this, I believe a week or so ago, and I believe the answer is that if you steal something from Krampus' Sleigh, like let's say you steal a 9th Book of Merlin, that is going to remove 9th Book of Merlin from your individual pool, so you won't be able to find another one after that. This is the same thing that happens if you kidnap a questing unit. If you kidnap a Cinderella, you'll no longer be able to find a Cinderella in the pool. However, if you kidnap a Cinderella and you already have a Cinderella, then it will be possible to have 2 of them. So, same thing with Krampus' Sleigh. If you can steal something that you already have, then you'll have 2 copies of it, which could potentially open up some interesting comps. So, we'll see how all of that works. I'm not sure how it interacts with Pandora's Box and Holy Grail. Like, if you can still steal those things, I believe you would be able to. And I guess you could steal your opponent's Krampus' Sleigh. Cool. Okay. That's kind of interesting. Just kind of float it again. It is a really weird treasure, and the devs described it as self-balancing, because if you're able to win the combat, then that probably means your opponent doesn't have that good of treasures, which means that it will never steal something that great. And then if they do have great treasures, you might not be able to beat them. I think that's a really interesting part of it. I personally think the game could benefit from an additional catch-up mechanic with Krampus' Sleigh. Though I could understand how that would feel bad, too, if you were able to bully the lobby and then somebody was just able to steal your treasure and steal all of your hard work. But, I don't know, still seems like it might be cool. Does mean there's a potential risk to just picking up an early Tier 7 treasure that you don't have something to do with yet, like the Radiant Prism or Mirror, which typically take a little bit to get online and you can still lose with. Imagine stealing a Tier 7 treasure with Krampus' Sleigh. That'll be a cool video when it happens. And then, speaking of the Tier 7 Radiant Prism, this treasure is super, super cool. The devs talked about it for a little bit. I just made a Reddit post about it actually as well, and reposted my video from, I believe it was Monday. If you haven't seen that already, I think I've already shouted it out in this video because it is so cool. But Radiant Prism, your characters count as all types. Very innocuous, right? Very much like, okay, what is this? 6 words? How could that be a Tier 7 treasure? You need at least 7 words on a tier 7 treasure. They should make all tier 7 treasures, just, or at least when they can, you know? Tier 6 words, that's clearly just a mistake. But the cool thing about this treasure, though, is almost that it doesn't really do that much when you pick it up a lot of the times. It's not going to be super powerful, but you can eventually build around it and really do some awesome stuff if you just take the time. And the reason that I say it might not do anything when you pick it up is because chances are you're not running Burning Tree and Good Boy and Oni Tyrant together in the same comp because they don't synergize. But once you pick up the Radiant Prism, of course, then they do. Oh, and you could pump up a Good Boy with an Ashwood Elm. I haven't heard anybody talk about that one yet. I've heard about Good Boy plus Lordy. That seems cool. Basically, all tier 6 characters are going to work together very, very well. And there's some other really good characters that you can throw in there as well. But all types does include good and evil. So this is eating Beauty's meal a little bit, the Radiant Prism, taking out some of what makes Beauty cool. But Radiant Prism, there's just so much that you can do with it that any one individual player, unless you're like streaming and constantly playing the game, this treasure's never going to get old. You're going to probably do something with it every single time that you play with it. I'm assuming you can pause right now. I'm going to spoil the video that I put out on Monday. In that one, we also had Sky Castle, which meant that everything was a royal, which meant that everything could double extremely easy and grab us some more treasures. So from there, what we were able to do was pick up a 9th Book of Merlin and then look for a Mimic chest while combining other tier 6 units. So all of that is really sweet. Like I forget what I actually combined to get the 9th Book of Merlin, but you can combine 2 Pumpkin Kings and get 9th Book of Merlin, and then all of your units are royals. They're all also evil for the Pumpkin King, and they're all mages. And then everything that the Pumpkin King is summoning will also be all creature types. So that's going to trigger 9th Book of Merlin. It's going to also trigger Court Wizard. Those are the biggest triggers to take advantage of, at least that I can think of. They'll also all be animals when they summon, so you can use them to take advantage of Bear Stain. And they'll all be monsters so that they can attack with Oni Tyrant. Really, the list doesn't end and is just super powerful. And then one of the most powerful abilities with that is going to be 9th Book of Merlin. So I would say the new Exodia build in the game has changed for the first time, which is really cool. And the new Exodia build is probably either Radiant Prism plus either double 9th Book or 9th Book Mimic Chest. And double 9th Book you can now get from the Krampus Sleigh. But 2 different ways to build the absolute Exodia best comp in the game. Pretty tough to beat that, and then from there you can really just play whatever. You can play copycats, you can play court wizards, definitely want to play some summons, threw in like some baby bears and stuff like that. It's really, really cool, the crazy things that you can do with this. But even if you don't have 9th Book of Merlin, there's still some really sick stuff that you can do just by picking up tier 6 characters. One thing that I'm just thinking now could be really awesome, a lot of times with not Krampus, Apocalypse, you can pick up like a Rune Stones or something like that early on, hold on to it until you're level 6, and then triple it and grab a tier 7 treasure. And I think Radiant Prism is going to be surprisingly effective on Apocalypse specifically because you have all of these characters hanging around, and you've like got a Lordy, you've got a Good Boy, and you're trying to piece all of these things together. With Radiant Prism, no thinky, just works. Really sweet treasure. Yeah, there'll be, I'm sure, a lot of just sweet stuff happening with this. Even if you don't think it's right, just take it, see what you can do, have some fun. And I'm sure that you will. We are going to see a return of Bossy in this patch, and Fanny is going to get removed. So pretty similar space that they occupy because Bossy is going to be a tier 2 unit now. It's been a tier 5, tier 4, and now tier 2 unit, and this is definitely the weakest iteration. Just this, I think, is a nerf to Dwarves. Especially in the early game, it means that Fanny plus Crafty is now a 3-3. It means that Fanny plus Doubly is now a 4-4. So all of these, and when I say Fanny, I mean Bossy plus these things, is now a 3-3 and now a 4-4. So it means that you can pump up everything in your front row instead. I don't love it. I think that Dwarves need some help, and this isn't quite the help that it needs. However, part of the reason for this change is they also wanted to introduce a new dwarf on Amy, which is a 4-cost, tier 4, 5/5 ranged dwarf. Honestly, I don't love this because it's just boring. It just says ranged, and I get that it gets pumped up from the Bossy and you can backline it, and now dwarves have a ranged unit, and I get that the pun is cute. Still don't love it. It is still probably overall going to be a buff to the Dwarves tribe. Main reason just being Dwarves just didn't have, it only had one unit on tier 4. So it just made Dwarves like very, very awkward to play. I don't think, like, there's no way Amy is ever making it into your final comps. I mean, she like kind of can, but yeah, I'm not super impressed, and overall don't love this direction for Dwarves. I'd really, if any devs are listening at this point, like, what are we, 50 minutes in, and I say this on Discord too, but I'd really love to see some more mechanical identity being shown to Dwarves. However, just on the power level, because that's why most of you are here, it's fine. It's a 5/5 ranged unit. It's decent. I will say, so I haven't gotten to see pure experience with Bossy. I played 2 games last night. In one of the games, on turn 3, my shop was just 3 Bossy and a Crafty. Just like literally I could triple the Bossy right there. And then it would give me a treasure to pump up the Crafty. I think that's an outlier of a game a little bit. It was really random. You can't like plan around that. So obviously I did play Dwarves that game and tried it out. It was fine. I don't think it's exciting. Maybe it doesn't have to be exciting. I still wish there was something a little bit more going on. I do understand they want to kind of keep it simple so that it is new player friendly, and it's supposed to be the first tribal interaction that you come across with in a game. But Fanny was the best dwarf. Other than Lordy, Fanny was the best dwarf before. And I have to imagine this is an overall nerf, but we'll see. Maybe now there's some interesting aspects to it because you can actually complete your Princess White treasure, whereas on the previous patches, there was just no way you were ever completing that treasure because there was no tier 4 dwarves, and now there's 2 of them, so maybe that helps a little bit. And then we are going to see Oni Tyrant get reverted back to a 6-cost 13/13 that gives +10/+10. They felt it was a little bit too strong, and I definitely thought it was strong, but I don't know. Kind of liked it at the same time, but I guess they had the data behind it and just thought that it was too good in that capacity. I think that Oni Tyrant's weird because, I don't know, it's not really something that you want in your final comp, though it awkwardly was okay in some trophy hunter builds because most of the things that you're trying to slay with are last breath monsters. So maybe Oni Tyrant is like used in some trophy hunter builds now, but it also just competes for space with support backline stuff in that comp. Maybe you can throw it in slot 4, not sure, but we will see Oni Tyrant get moved back to 6. So definitely going to make the game a little bit slower too, because this was such a powerful unit on tier 5, and we'll see how that goes. There are some bug fixes. We can breeze through them a little bit, and then you'll also see there is a fight speed up animation, which is really cool, and there's some other graphical changes. I know some people's opinions on them may vary. I personally don't mind the graphical stuff either way. I do have sensitive eyes and sensitive vision, but for my money, and I'm not trying to say if they make you feel nauseous or anything that you are wrong, I'll just say that I think that in terms of how the brain works, there are expectations, and that is what can be nauseating, especially with animation. There's a lot of science between like how Bugs Bunny will take a big, you can't really see it in my camera, but Bugs Bunny makes some movements before he darts off screen and then leaves the cloud of smoke. There needs to be some anticipation and then some payoff in animation. Shout out to Corridor Digital. That's where I'm getting a lot of this stuff from the Corridor Crew channel. But I think that might be some of what people have an issue with. I personally, like I said, haven't really noticed an issue, and the recommendation that I have is just try it out with an open mind, and maybe once you get more used to it, once you more understand the setup and the payoff for where that's going, it will make a little bit more sense for your brain. There are some other changes here, mostly some small stuff. This one I thought was funny. River Wish Mermaid would stop supporting if Evil Eye was replaced. And I'm like, well, I've never seen that bug, but why would you ever replace an Evil Eye? Don't do that if you're running your River Wish Mermaid. Echowood gaining double the stats from summons if you controlled multiple bear stains. I haven't seen that, but that's kind of crazy. I will say that I've seen the opposite of a tripled Echowood only getting normal stats from Storm King being summoned all out of a Croc or a Mordred. But that's very, very specific. Miri now says Royals, great. Collection bug. Fixed an issue where Echowood would not gain stats when Tweedledum was summoned. I heard about that. I did not play Dwarves really at all in the last patch, but oof, that is terrible if that was happening. Just Dwarves did not need that happening to it too, but luckily that one is fixed. Hidden group names, that's a streaming thing. I had also not seen this one. I know that people have talked about bugs with the Fates. I did not know that it was related to Frog Prince and Awoken Princess, but it makes sense. Those are kind of sillier units. And I'm sure Brave Princess is bugged too, just because that unit introduces so many interesting bugs to the game. But I do know at one point there was a bug where, like, if you locked your shop on 3.0 with the Fates, your destined unit would disappear forever or something like that. Fixed a bug where Kidnap and Gloves of Thieving would take up a natural shop space. Okay, yeah, so now it will populate into the additional shop space that Potion Master and Pied Piper take advantage of. And I guess I hadn't really noticed it too much before, but I didn't think it was a huge deal because you're so happy when Gloves of Thieving and Kidnap are happening anyways. Kidnap will still be forking rotted a lot of the time, so it'll probably still take up one shop space. And then this last one, I have already reached out to the devs about because I disagree that it was a bug. I think that they should put it back into the game. Fixed a bug where Time Flies and Mordred summons would maintain the bonus from the Arc when put into play from your hand. I'm not sure if I ever showed it to you guys, but I had a pretty interesting game where I had Mimic Chest, Arc, and was summoning Time Flies, and I also was making use of the Monkey's Claw, Monkey's Paw. So all of my Time Flies were getting plus 36, plus 36. That was really cool. And I actually just enjoyed that as like a mechanic in the game. And I don't think that the Arc is super powerful. I think it was exciting when it first came out, but you generally don't want to be playing tier 2 units for that long, and plus 12 isn't the hugest bonus, especially when it doesn't affect any of your summons. So there's a lot of things that don't work with it. I feel like the Arc should just work with Time Flies, because Time Flies does potentially need some additional things to make it get set up, and the Arc can be a cool one. And then additionally, Mordred, not generally respected as one of the most powerful heroes in the game. Tried to show him off a little bit last week, but Mordred can use some help too. So I think that that would be nice to have some additional uses for the Arc in those scenarios, just to make both the Arc and Mordred, and then the two of those in combination, a little bit stronger. But that is going to be it for me today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this patch review. Let me know what you think down in the comments, what you are most excited to play with from this 71.12 patch, the June 2022 patch. That is going to be it for me today. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace.